stuff. But the one thing I really wanted to call out, and I'll see if this posts here, is we have a DevCon coming up. So our first developer conference coming up in November here. And I'm going to put a link to it in the chat here. And what the developer conference really is it's small. So we're going to have a lot of our kind of most elite customers are going to be there. And so there's 100+ people, but real intimate. The idea is for builders, developers to be able to communicate and talk about what they're doing, different techniques, new ideas. We're going to launch some new products there, so we're going to do that. We also can help people jumpstart kind of their development work. But the cool part is we want to open this up not just to our existing customers. We have a thing called the DevCon Fellowship, and that's what I just posted in there, and is the link. And so people can go register for the AIP platform, and there's a link in the post I had there. You can sign up, build something cool, and we want to keep it open-ended. So get creative. Like we're seeing submissions around, building hiking apps, to-do apps. We're seeing like news analysis. We're seeing all sorts of cool stuff that people are building. And then you can submit that and like tag me or Sham or whoever, and submit it as well on the website. And we're going to pick the top developers out of there and give them a trip to DevCon. And they're going to get to meet the whole team, work with all these developers, and get kind of a jump start to it. So free to get started, and then people can jump into the dev community and the dev fellowship and actually come build with us for 2 days.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for chat? Please request to speak. Omar, welcome. How are you?
Hey, doing good.
He's
back. Any questions? Omar, do you have any questions for chat?
No, not right now. Just listening in. I think we did go to Palantir a few months back, and I'm a Palantir investor now. Excited that they're entering the S&P 500. But yeah, he gave me a whole breakdown of their platform and told me a lot of stuff I didn't know not too long ago.
Yeah. I tell you what, I remember Omar
Chad
picked it up pretty quickly across the. As I was putting it down, he was seeing it and got it. So it was cool to get to show off the platform.
Thank you. JC?
Yeah, Chad. Hey, thanks for coming into this space. I've got a son that's in the Marine Corps who's currently deployed. I've got another son who's in the Navy on a nuclear sub. He's deployed. I myself personally, I'm a Marine veteran, and I just really appreciate everything that you're doing for my boys. I will tell you, when I was a Marine in 1988, if somebody would have come up to me and said, "Hey, we're going to implement some ontological processes into how we deploy you on the battlefield," I would have thought they were about to take my wisdom teeth out. So it's great to hear that these kids are, learning a lot of great new ways to, protect themselves and have the best, information possible on the battlefield. I mean, let's just be blunt. When I was in, we were going by the seat of our pants and talking to people. So I'm just really, really appreciative. I know you can't talk about much of what you're doing there, and obviously I appreciate that, but I just wanted to get on and say thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And thank you for your service and your family's service as well.
Alexander?
Yeah, Chad, are there any specific thing that you know for sure that you and your team does better than anyone else?
Getting generative AI workflows into production, in like real production, not in a pilot or a POC. I think.
Okay,
go ahead.
Why is that? And who do you do better versus?
I mean, we routinely come into these boot camps where people have spent 6 months with these other cloud providers doing their co-pilots and deploying them. And I routinely talk to customers who, I deployed 5,000 seats of Copilot, but I have no idea if it's adding value. I haven't seen a difference. So we often walk into where everyone is excited about it, kind of deploy these different pilots and POCs of things, and they're like, I don't really see a transformative value. And it's because chat on its own is just natural language querying of your data, essentially, is what these copilots are doing, which might make you a little bit more efficient, a little bit better in certain ways, but it's not transformative. It's not 10 times better. And that's really what we're focused on. And the reason that we can do that better faster is because of the connected tool chain that we have to be able to deploy these things. The ontology is key to that, because in order to get those Gen AI workflows there, you have to model these things in the ontology. So like Dr. Karp says all the time, like chips and ontology, and it really comes back to what he's trying to say is it's about, I need the chips for training and running and inferencing these things. The LLMs are becoming commodities, but in order to extract value, and he kind of said like the LLMs are like hydrocarbons. It's a great example, but hydrocarbons alone are great, but you can't get value out of them until you actually process and run them. And that's really where the ontology is kind of the refinement of those into something that's valuable. And so really the connected tool chain that we have to drive that. And the reason we're moving so much quicker is because we're at the edge with customers cycling very, very, very quickly. And so I think that's where we have a competitive advantage, is like I might be at a boot camp and see this new edge case about an AI workflow, and I see the pain by trying to implement it. Well, that might be a feature 2 weeks from now, right? Like that's literally at the speed we're working at. And a lot of the features that I launched, I think I even launched a feature when Omar had posted something about Palantir, like in his in his replies. But like we're launching features weeks after we have the idea, and so that's the speed. And so that iterative speed on top of the fast pace that these LLMs are moving are allowing us to actually deploy them in real world in meaningful ways.
Thank you, Uzi.
Yeah, iterative speed is something that I think both communities love, especially with FSD shipments. So I first wanted to, bounce a little bit from products to more of the culture of Palantir. So first, why was Palantir founded? Who are the founders? And then can you dive into the culture that there is today?
Yeah. So, post 9/11, the report after 9/11 really showed that we had all the information, but it was just siloed across different agencies and groups. And so that led us to believe, like, well, why do we have these silos, right? And then, in that case, like, can we build tools that bring the data together across all these, but without violating people's privacy and civil liberties? And so, that's really the focus of the technology. A lot of the original crew came out of PayPal, so Peter Thiel, and then Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, and Stephen Cohen, really the main founders. And Alex, and Stefan and Peter are still pretty heavily involved. Obviously, Alex is. But the idea behind it was, how do we bring those things together and protect people's civil liberties while also protecting our country from terrorism and other things? And so that was really the genesis. And then about 2014, 2015, we started to see that was the same problems from really, from the government space and this intelligence space is enterprises. In enterprise, I have silos of data, my business is not communicating. I might have the answer, but it's spread out all over the place. Same problem, different context. And so those same concepts around ontology apply in the enterprise space. And so that's really where things started to pick up. And in 2017 is really kind of where Foundry took off in the commercial space, and really has been growing pretty exponentially there. And so that's really where we started. But from a culture perspective, it's very kind of like we refer to it as like an artist colony. There's a bunch of weirdos, strange people, super smart all over the place, and there's not as much hierarchy. I mean, Dr. Karp has doctorate in philosophy, in German philosophy, and like just thinking differently. I'm a college dropout. Like you just got a bunch of strange people that think differently, that we have the freedom and autonomy to go try and do things. But at the end of the day, it comes back to where is the momentum. And so that's really where the company is following momentum. We try things, we see if there's momentum, we keep pushing it. And as there's more momentum, we keep investing heavier and heavier. And that's really the cultural perspective about how we move very quickly in the space, especially like when Gen AI came out, we had AIP come out a few months later. Like that, and then the momentum on that has just accelerated, and our growth is just exponential. Now we're in the S&P 500. It seems surreal. So anyway, I don't know if there's other questions on the culture. Happy to answer that as well.
Uzi?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the sense of urgency I see from both Palantir and Tesla. So does Karp instill that, or How do they get started, and how's it still in motion?
Well, it's because we sit side by side with your customer. It's not hard to not feel urgency when you're sitting there feeling the pain with your customer. If it hurts, that drives urgency. If you're having a hard time keeping your business open from COVID, or now with this dock worker strike, um, that pain is real. And so if you truly want to go sit with your customers and feel that pain, that drives urgency. And that's really what we see, whether it's in the healthcare or in these other spaces. That's what I see drive the urgency across things. Is like there's no time like to waste talking about things. Let's go build it. Let's go try it. And so that builder mentality, engineer first. I mean, we've got about 4,000 employees across the company. Most of us are engineers. There's very few salespeople. Most of the sales are done by people like me that are engineering first. And so that's really the culture, is just build it, go, build, do. And yeah, Dr. Karp is very much the energy behind a lot of that. He gets excited. Let's go do it. Let's just do it. Right. And that's something we hear pretty continuously across all the leadership.
Chad, couple more questions. One on culture. How does Palantir balance ethical considerations? Are there any red lines when deciding to take on projects, and who makes the final call?
Yeah, so we have an entire privacy and civil liberties group, and privacy and civil liberties engineers that are embedded with us. So you kind of think of it like a separation of concerns, where we have these people that are really looking out for, is this the right thing to do? Should we do this? Not just can we do it? So that's embedded across the whole company. I mean, I'm often in reviews about new customers, new projects, new things, where we have the PCL engineers side by side with us discussing, okay, should we do this? If we do this, how do we make sure we protect people's liberties? So that's embedded and ingrained in the culture. And these engineers have, a lot of free reign to not only help us engineer things in the right way to protect people's civil liberties, but also kind of raise the flag of like, hey, I'm not sure we should do this. And so those calls are made across the company quite often, and I've been a part of some of those conversations as well. But there's a great, we actually have a separate Twitter feed for our PCL engineers, and they're happy to answer questions as well. I can throw that in the chat, but there's a lot of really good stuff. We put out much more blogs. There's also a dedicated blog to the PCL stuff about how we actually do that in reality, from like, what is the engineering concerns we have around protecting your privacy? How is that done? How do we ensure that data is obscured and minimalized, so that even if there is exposure for some reason, that it's minimalized? Like there's all these different steps that we're taking. And so I can put a link to their Twitter page. It's got a bunch of blog posts and other things that talk on this as well.
Thank you. What do you think Palantir will look like in 10 years? Could it play a role in autonomous systems or even a Palantir AI assistant?
I see Palantir being the operating system for the modern enterprise. And I know it sounds kind of lofty or like vague BS, but like I see at the core of operations, whether you're in a plant, you're in a boardroom, or you're an analyst in the logistics group, um, you need these capabilities to be able to operate and be more efficient. And so, like, I see us being the fabric that's going to be driving deeper and deeper into those capabilities. And so, like, traditionally, you'll see us come in and augmenting things. I think you'll see more and more of us driving the core capabilities. And so I see us really starting to metastasize that into something real. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff coming up in that space. And I think, if you think of a core thing on the enterprise commercial space, it's how do I actually operate my business? Usually these ERPs are fragmented. They have a subset of the things. So then I go buy more SaaS products and stack them on to get the full capabilities I need. And now I have this very segmented and fragmented ecosystem. How do we fix that? Dr. Karp calls that the Tower of Babel. How do we fix the Tower of Babel through creating this connected ecosystem? And that's where I think we're going to be core across that. And the deeper and deeper we go, the more and more we can help our customers drive revenue, and then we'll get paid for that eventually, right?
Let's see. I was told that Palantir emphasizes human decision making alongside AI to avoid over reliance on automation. Is that true, first of all? And then secondly, would you please expand on that? It's true.
Yes, it's humans plus AI teaming together to be more effective. And there's actually Sham, our CTO, did a great talk actually in I think it was about 2010. I'm sure someone out there, one of the Palantir fanboys I see on here can find it. It's really a cool talk from Sham about the human computer symbiosis and how each of them alone can, even through automation, can do a lot of things, but all of them working together actually, is 1 + 1 = 3. And that's really where we go, is the human computer symbiosis is really the way to go. Not only from the standpoint of like, how do you help people from a change management standpoint of like integrating people into the process, but how does AI take the non-differentiated heavy lifting off of people and allow them to be strategic? How do people work with computers to come up with strategies? And those are the things where the ontology is key, because that's the connective tissue between AI and people. And if we're both working on that same backbone of a digital twin and ontology, then AI and people are really working together. So that's actually absolutely the core of our thesis. I saw someone post one of the slides from Akshay, our chief architect, the other day, that shows that human plus AI teaming is core to us.
Thank you. Uzi?
Yeah, I just put in the video with Sham from 2010. I also know it's 2:40, so I wanted to thank you, Chad. I don't know if you have time for more questions, but it was awesome having you.
I've got time for a few more questions. This is fun.
Okay, great. This is far out, trying to understand the next 10, 20 years. Can you describe the world without Palantir in 10, 20 years, and how is it different with Palantir?
Oh man, that's a big question. I think it really comes back to driving the values of protecting people's civil liberties, whether it's in enterprise or it's in the government space. How can we protect us as humans and our thought process, our freedom of speech, and what we're doing? But how can we also start to become more efficient, communicate more effectively? Because there's so much kind of entropy between business functions, between businesses, and that entropy has lost, revenue, it's lost gains. And so what I really see Palantir driving, whether it's in the intelligence space, the government space, the commercial space, it's how do I reduce the friction? How do I connect the world to make a globally optimized decisions while protecting people's liberties? How do I share data in ways that still protect me and my data, but still optimize the overall solution? So we have lots of things we're working on in that space of scaling, connecting. Like right now, these examples I showed you were in one company, but how do we start to connect companies, be creating marketplaces, drive things, and reduce the amount of entropy between these processes? And I think that's really where we can drive. And if we, for example, let's just give one example of this in the real world. Let's say you've got kind of food supply chain from retailer back to production, back to farms. Each one of those, you're holding product, you're having inventory, you have buffers, there's communication gaps, there's shipments of trucks that are not full. And each time you're moving across companies, across business units, across these things, you're creating these inefficiencies and these lost, wasted goods, these wasted miles of fuel. How do we actually connect those back so that, the demand signal from a customer at a store is feeding back through the retailer to the vendors producing the food, that feeds back to the people on the farms growing or raising animals or those things. And so like in that simplified example, can Palantir be the backbone that connects all these enterprises together to reduce the friction and inefficiencies, but do it in a safe and secure way where you're not giving away your secrets, right? And that's really the key, I think, across this, is like, how do we create that safe, connected ecosystem across the world?
Thank you. Omar, anything on your front?
No, I completely agree.
Okay. Uzi, do you have any other questions?
I mean, I can go for like another hour asking about the defense part, but I can let other people speak.
Okay. I do want to give a shout out while Chad is here to our sponsors real quick, because they make this space possible. They make people like Chad be able to join and connect with interested, employees or investors. So I think it would be remiss if I didn't. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. And because you're part of the Tesla Live community, Joa is hooking you up. Use code TSLA Live for a special discount at checkout. And Pay More. Pay More buys, sells, trades, and recycles electronics because Pay More believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Join the Pay More revolution or visit one of their 100 stores near you or paymore.com. All right. Uzi?
Oh, I also, talking about Joe Life, wanted to shout out Eliano. He does the merch for Palantir, and they've made hoodies after my suggestion. So, I love both Palantir and Tesla, and I merch from both companies.
Great. Chad, do you see, this is kind of almost science fiction, but I don't think it's as science fiction as people think. Could Palantir's data platforms one day help run cities or even governments autonomously? If so, how would that look like in practice, and how would it handle complex decision making for societies?
Well, I think, like, in my mind, that's a system of systems, right? And so I think this comes back to the human computer symbiosis and like what's really important. What are the outcomes we're trying to drive through automation? And I think this is where setting up systems to help automate with human review, but capturing the human feedback and that reinforcement learning. I mean, that's key to what we do a lot of places, and I think that applies to kind of the cities and running these larger scale things. How do we do that without losing the human in this? How do we capture the institutional knowledge, the human effects of these things? How do we, and then how do you manage that over time? And so that's where we really like to build these kind of connected workflows with humans in the loop, getting that feedback, taking that feedback to make it more efficient, but also adjusting with them over time as they shift and things change, right? The world's very dynamic. And so I think that's key is it's not just automation. It's how do we keep the human in the loop? How do we keep humans in the touch? Because otherwise we're going to live in this very stale, blank thing that is deterministic from a centralized people doing the automation. I don't think that's what anyone wants. And so I think having different systems and then using things to help build the system of systems in this overall arching ecosystem. So if it's robo taxis, hopefully here in a few days we hear about, that's going to be one system, an overall system of a city. And so that's really the way I would think about it. Is it's a system of systems, and we want to keep humans in the loop. Otherwise, we're gonna live in a very dystopian world, and I don't think that's what anyone wants.
Got it. Thank you. Elanio, you may go ahead.
Hey, I was just going to say, Uzi, I appreciate the shout out, and thanks for supporting the store. I will say that you're probably the 100th person that I came across since I launched the store that asked for the hoodie, but I do appreciate you. I do appreciate giving the nudge, and also just Chad. Really love what you're saying, man. Really happy that you're a colleague, and I just want to quickly say that I think everything that Chad's saying is so awesome. And I think at Palantir, it's like we are big proponents of peace through strength. So I know there's like a lot of questions about, the military application, but I think taking a step back, like when you think about peace through strength, like up until really like a decade or 2 decades ago, you thought about like tanks and F-35s and, ships and all that stuff. But I think today, like when we think about strength, it's like systems of systems and like the ability to bring all that together and to have the speed advantage over your adversary. And then taking a step even further back, it's economic prosperity and security powers national security. You need GDP growth. You need to outperform your adversaries, not just on the battlefield, but in the factories and through commerce. And I think that when we think about the implications of AI in the West, to Chad's point about delivering outcomes and delivering advantages for our customers, that's what it comes down to. Because when you put that all together, when you pull it all together, that's an economy and it scales, and that's how you really win, and that's how you protect the West. So I love what Chad is saying, and I think we're super proud of that story, and we're really excited about the next 10 to 20 years to play an integral role sort of in this competition and ensuring that the United States maintains its economic advantage but also its national security advantage. So appreciate you all. Thanks for having Chad on, and yeah, store.palantir.com. Let's go.
Thank you.
Our chief mercenary.
Thank you very much. Chad, how can we, as Tesla Live community, help you achieve your goals?
Honestly, I love the question. I love the big questions you guys had today. Those are great as we think about kind of the world and what we're trying to do. So that's awesome. But also just, people getting out there and building. Like, I'm a big proponent here of, like, I finish a lot of these demo videos I do with, like, let's go build. Just go build it. Try it out. And so I think, if anything, people get out there and go to build.palantir.com, sign up, try stuff, give us feedback. You'll see me answering questions left and right on Twitter about technical stuff, ideas. The more feedback, the more ideas. I think that's the stronger the community goes, and it really kind of goes towards the overarching goal that we have is really promoting Western values towards the whole world, and how we promote that, and that's through building. And Shalom talks about reindustrialize and how do we create this industrial defense base. That's through building, not through talking about it. And so, if anything, the more that people can go build, give feedback, and have the community, I think that's the biggest thing. So I've been here listening to you guys, watching the Tesla communities for years now. So I've been lurking silently, but I'm happy to be here talking to you guys today.
Thank you, Alexander.
Chad, do you have any projects in Europe, if you can speak on it?
Yeah, there's a lot of work in EU, in different spaces. I'm trying to think through. Kind of Airbus is probably the biggest one and kind of the early customer. So a lot of the business operations. There's quite a few YouTube videos. I'm sure John here. I see him listening. He's our video master here. He can find some videos on the Airbus work that we've done as well. But that's really optimization about, like, if you see the difference in kind of where people are, in the kind of the airline industry and especially in the airplanes. Airbus has been killing it, and they've been really executing, and that execution comes from things that are built in driving at the edge. And we did a lot of work with them through Airbus and Skywise now. So that whole kind of connected thing in the EU is big. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. I'm sure some of our followers will point out other things I've missed, but yeah, we definitely have growth there in the EU. It's not nearly as fast as the growth as we see in the US.
Okay, great. Uzi, any other questions on your end? I think I'm done with my questions.
I'm gonna have to run here. I got to do a live YouTube stream with Amit as well here, so I've got to run and get ready for that here and get over with Amit.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Chad, for stopping by.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.
All right, take care. All right, let's go to JC. JC, what did you take away from this conversation?
No, I thought it was great. I mean, it's definitely something I need to get smarter on, ontology and Foundry. I mean, I get it from a high level perspective. It's like you said, it's process of processes or whatever, if you're from Canada. But I think there's definitely a lot of really good run. I think at the end there, I was like, man, I think these guys are going to disrupt SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Great Plains. I could definitely see them, really, really being big. And I'm not a shareholder. I mean, like I said, I'm a little more than a shareholder. I have two sons in the United States military, so I'm way beyond a shareholder.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to talk about this tomorrow as well, and we'll do a debrief. I need to kind of reflect on it a little bit. But we have Machine on the board. Machine, what did you take away from that conversation? What did you learn that you didn't know before?
Well, to be honest, Palantir's a complicated company that I really need to do a deep dive in if I really wanted to understand to a level that I thought would be worth investing in. Some of the companies I work for do work with Palantir. I do like their CEO. I do like the type of stuff they're doing. I'm not sure on what the total addressable market would be for a company that's mainly focused on, let's say, government agencies for revenue. That's not usually the type of business that I am very excited by. Having worked in that space, but I agree with their mission. Dubious things like this guy seems like a Swedish plant, Wahlquist is his name. It's like another
before you
Alexander.
muddied it,
I think
the
he's not
waters.
really American, so that's questionable.
Can you not hear me? Yeah, I do actually want to build a DCF on Palantir. I think that's the only way really to understand the company at a deeper level. So I'm going to do that in the future, as well as a DCF for Tesla. And maybe Uzi and I can do that together live. JC, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult though for a company like Palantir, Yaman. I mean, to a certain degree, there's going to be a large chunk of their stuff that's just not going to be able to be public to you, right? Especially from a military strategic standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of work with what you have. When you're building a DCF, you never have 100% of the data. There's inside information and everything. So obviously some companies are more challenging than others, but you work with what you have. All right, that's not a problem.
Yep.
Uzi, what did you learn that you didn't know before with this conversation?
First of all, I thought it was going to be like 20, 30 minutes, and it lasted almost an hour. So, that's a signal. It went pretty well, and I wanted to succeed. I did learn a decent amount. Chad went into great detail. He was pretty gracious with all of our questions, from going from from Foundry to Ontology to AIP. I think that was the part that I wanted to be fleshed out the most. You can only get so much asking a chatbot or researching yourself, but hearing it from the horse's mouth too is the best thing, especially when they're front line. I really am fascinated with their approach overall.
Okay, Alexander, what did you learn that you didn't know before this conversation?
Well, first of all, I want to say I can actually relate to what he said about going out to customers, trying to help them, trying to make them more productive. That is also what I do. And I learned that there are probably many things that I could use with AI to organize the workflow that I do and what the company I work for do.
Wait, does that mean you're going to reach out to Palantir and try to become a customer?
I'm going to look into it because I have the ideas started flowing. I'll just say that.
Okay, good. And I learned that Palantir really wants to put human at the center. That's something I didn't know before this conversation. They're big on human AI, symbiosis, instead of just full automation of things. I thought that was really interesting, and I didn't know that. JC?
Yeah, and you had a really good question, Yaman, about the autonomous governmental institutions. I mean, we're still in an environment where our economy rides on 70-plus-year-old dudes getting in a room once a month and talking about which way they want interest rates to go. And I made a post one time. It's like we laugh at the ancient Greeks because they climbed, Mount Parnassus to talk to the Oracle of Delphi and figure out, whether they were going to fight somebody. And we laugh at that, but yet we wait with bated breath once a month or whatever to hear 7 old dudes come out of a room and tell us whether our mortgages are going to go up or down. And, I could see like autonomous, bringing some sort of autonomy or blockchain type of solutions to that. Obviously not today, but sounds like that's kind of they're thinking about those type of things as well. So I really like that question you had, Jan.
Thank you. I didn't do this more as much as I should have, but Alan just reminded me or YouTube live chat. If you're on X, please take a moment to go up to the top of your screens and click the YouTube link and like the video. It is with your help that this channel will grow. And the more we grow, the more we can have interviews and people like Chad come in and explain their companies. We have to have a wider audience for that to continue. So even if you're on X, please take a moment to go up to the top, click the link, the YouTube link, and like that video now. And we'll take a 20-second break for people to do that. Alexander will count down from 30. Alexander?
Okej. 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, that actually added 30 likes. Thank you, Alexander. Maybe different language is the way to go here. All right. So JC said he believes that Palantir will take share from SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft, disrupt SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft. JC said, interesting. Uti, do you agree with that?
Who?
Come on. Okay, I got you.
No, did you say my name or someone else?
Yeah, I say your name. Do you think Palantir will
Oh, it's
disrupt
gonna-
SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft?
It will destroy SAP. You don't need that. Microsoft, they're somewhat compatible with. I heard they have a government contract with was it Azure? So I think the ambition to win is clearly there. I think they perceive Google as more of a competitor and hate them more. They don't Snowflake they really dislike. I see John in the audience and he's a clip master. So if he wants to come up and provide more color, feel free to. But yeah, I think their competition, like they take their competition very seriously. They just won't outright say that right here. Maybe Karp will rant a little bit about it, but SAP you don't really need.
Who did you say was in the audience? John? Yeah, he's welcome to come up. And Enrique is also welcome to come up and tell us about Palantir some more.
I see Garcia Cap too. He's great account, pretty funny. He should have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, he's welcome to come up as well. I mean, this episode has been mostly about. I should change the name to PLTR Live. All right, Uzi, thanks again for setting this up. It was excellent, and thanks for coming up with good questions as well. Good. All right, I mean, if nobody wants to come up, then that's probably about it for us. I'm going to leave the X space open for another minute and for people to go up to the top of your screens on your way out, and please hit that like button for the YouTube video to help us grow. Thank you very much, everybody, and I will chat with you all tomorrow.